A battle has been brewing for weeks, and now we have the first shots. Tony and Elle square off over Big Ben's most important skill. The guys get into who is rising from ashes, who may have only downhill in front of them, Atlanta's weakness, Kansas City's strength, and more. This week on Just Press Play.
Red Wasp is excavate. Pregnant ladies and little kids better get the hell out of the way because I am running. I'm like Forrest Gump, dude. I am running. So the Titanic was the biggest ship on the ocean, but that didn't mean it was unsinkable. Okay. All right. Look, I want you each to use ombudsman in a sentence next week. I got one for you. My name is Kevin, the official ombudsman of the Just Press Play podcast. You like apples?
All right, here we are. We're back, and as normal for our second episode of the week, we're going to dive deep into the NFL. And like we all imagine, the Patriots are struggling. The Dolphins are 3-0. It's just what you would expect it. So we are. It is a fun weekend or a fun episode because we have not only is Uncle Tony joining us again, but LJ is actually on with us too. We got all four of us here. So what's up, guys?
Finally made a Tuesday. What's up?
Howdy.
Yep, glad to be here.
I don't know if the guys have made a players only meeting between LJ and Tony. We might, me and Pops might have to just take a step back and let them duke it out for a little bit. But we'll see how it rolls.
Yeah,
I might have to put on my walking boot to be Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, we may have to have something for this big Monday night clash. So,
so I want to real quick before we get too deep into it. After 3 weeks, I don't have a clue. If you know who to bet on in the NFL, then I think you're lying. But it's been a wild show after the Vikings lose to the Bills and just all the craziness that's going on. I don't know who to bet on, but I know who to bet with, and that's the sponsor of the podcast. You need to be betting at MyBookie if you're going to be betting. And if you are, go ahead and put in the JPP promo code, and you'll match any deposit you make on there. They'll match it up to $1,000. So it's just the best place to go gamble away and lose some money. Unless you're smarter than I, hopefully you'll win some money. But
well, Kevin, I don't want to brag or anything, but at the very end of the podcast, I think you guys remember me saying, "Don't give up on those Lions. Watch out for those Lions."
You did, and I was not. I thought the Lions suck, and I hated Matt Patricia. And all of a sudden, I don't know if the Patriots are just trying to lull us all to sleep, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But man,
oh my god,
it was a tough week for me gambling. I'll say that. But let's go ahead and get into it and start off.
Did you bet the Lions, Tony?
I did.
Okay.
Man,
wow.
I might just need to start I need to start listening to Uncle Tony more often, I guess.
Well, it made up for all that money that I lost on the Jets Thursday night. So
fair enough.
I missed that one.
Well, that's perfect. I wanted to, let's go ahead and start off with the first game of the week from last week. We haven't talked a lot about it yet, and that's the Browns finally. The game that was sponsored by Bud Light. I swear Bud Light was everywhere. They were smart with their little cooler things because that's all anyone talked about during, after, before. That was all of it. But the Browns finally got a win. Hugh Jackson is the new Bill Belichick, I guess. I mean, what's Baker Mayfield, the new face of the NFL? What was your thoughts? What y'all think on the game?
It's cool to see Baker get in there.
Oh man,
it took an injury from Tyrod Taylor for Hugh Jackson to. I don't understand these coaches that go. It was the same thing with Bill O'Brien last year and Deshaun Watson, and it's just. I don't know what they watch in practice, but as soon as Baker Mayfield gets in the game, this offense looks like, oh, hey, this is fun. This guy's I like Tyrod Taylor. I think he's good, but I just don't know why coaches insist on, we have a mediocre team. Let's not put the quarterback out there. I just don't get it.
Yeah. I will say this, Baker came in slinging the football. And two difference there, they put in a package for Tyrod Taylor. And the package for Tyrod Taylor is you don't blitz him, you keep him inside the pocket, make him try to run out. And then that kind of game plan with Baker Mayfield gave him the opportunity to get to his second read. Tyrod Taylor's biggest drawback has always been he takes too many sacks. He won't make that risky throw. Baker Mayfield doesn't have that problem.
No.
Baker Mayfield, he'll throw it between two Fayetteville police officers if you let him. And so he was slinging it, and they were letting him sling because they never got out of their base package. Yep. I think next week when you see Baker, we'll really start to see when he sees more than just a base package out there, and he's having to trying to figure out on those blitzes and see what happens. But the kid can sling a football, no doubt about it.
Well, I want to add that it did look like, one, that little takedown by the Fayetteville Police Department would have been a flag for roughing the passer. I guarantee.
Clearly. Oh, yeah.
No doubt about that. But Baker Mayfield, and I guess maybe I need clarification on what you mean with getting to a second read, because what it looked like to me is Tyrod Taylor was holding the ball too long, and Baker Mayfield was getting rid of it. He was getting it out of his hand and did well with it.
No doubt. Yeah, and Tyrod, what I mean by that was the knock last year. If you go look at his stats for Buffalo, he holds it and he wants to run it. And I think we may talk about another quarterback tonight, Dak Prescott, who also does that, who just won't make that risky throw and would rather take off with his legs. And Tyrod just holds that ball too long. Baker, like I said, he doesn't have that fear. He's going to go off. So Baker gets to read number 2 and it's open. He's gonna take it. Tyrod, he looks at his first read. He's not looking for his second or third. He's looking to run.
I think what he's kind of saying, Pops, is just it's the trust in his read. Baker Mayfield he trusts what he sees and he's going to fire it off and just assume he's right. He trusts what his eyes see. Where Tyrod Taylor, he might see it, but he doesn't quite trust it, and he'll hold and pump fake, and then he'll just scramble with it. And the Brown, I think Tony has hit it right on the head, and that's the Jets planned for Tyrod Taylor, and you could tell that offense was they had it perfectly planned out and schemed out, and Tyrod Taylor stood no chance. And then I know during the game you heard Joe Buck and Troy Aikman say, "Well, we heard the Jets coaches say they're preparing as if Baker Mayfield might get thrown in," but you heard Jamal Anderson actually came on the radio today and talked to Jet safety and said, we kind of planned a little bit for Baker, but we had all our packages set for Tyrod Taylor, and you could see we were ready for him. And when Baker came in, it was just a whole new game. And it's just like what I think we're just going to have to be the new podcast called like Cool It on the Rookies, because it was Sam Darnold for a week, and then we try to tell like calm down. It's just a week. People learn a little more about him, and I think Baker Mayfield, after people watch tape, he'll still be solid. I think he's a good quarterback, and I was impressed with how he played. But there will be when a team fully plans on him being the quarterback the whole time, it'll be a little different. It gets thrown in there when all of a sudden this new quarterback gets thrown in. The Jets have a scheme planned for a whole nother guy. I want to say, just calm down. Baker Mayfield might not be the MVP yet. I think he looks like a good pick. I think he's the right guy for the Browns. But I wanted to give a little bit of credit to. I think Hugh Jackson's a terrible coach still. He's going to hold back the Browns. He's awful. But I got to give a little shout out to, I think, what is it, John Dorsey? Is that the GM's name? They're all those picks that they made. Like, I questioned a little bit on. I thought they should try to get Chubb, and maybe I can ask you, El, how Chubb's doing at the pass rushers doing at Denver. But Denzel Ward has looked amazing so far this year. He's got, I think, a turnover in every game. He's who they took with the 4th overall. Baker looks good. Myles Garrett may be the best defender in all of the NFL. They just have so much talent all over the defense that once they get out, once Hugh Jackson can quit shooting himself in the foot, I think they're going to be a hell of a team at some point. I like that talent.
Okay.
Well, wait, did you say Myles Garrett is the best defender in the league, though? I mean, are we forgetting about Mr. Mack?
I was going to jump on that.
Forgetting about Mr. Mack at Chicago?
So Myles Garrett, to me, he just looks amazing. I don't think people can block him. And right now, I looked up, he's tied for the league in sacks right now with 4 with, as you mentioned, Khalil Mack, Cam Jordan, and LJ's boy Von Miller. Von Miller's a stud. But with Myles Garrett on the end, he is all they wanted and more at that 1st overall pick. And we wondered why they didn't go get Mitch Trubisky, or why they didn't get a quarterback when they didn't have one that year. And Trubisky doesn't look great. Now, maybe they should have got Pat Mahomes, but they also don't have Andy Reid at offensive coordinator or head coach. But I just think I like what they've done with the talent on their defense. And I do think Myles Garrett I think he might win Defensive Player of the Year. That's going out on a limb maybe, but he's a beast. And then I want to go to the next, we mentioned it off the top. The Patriots on Sunday night, I know that it seems like this happens every few years. I remember the game, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago, where they had the Monday night game against the Chiefs and they stunk it up, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is the end of Bill Belichick and Tom Brady." And is anybody on this podcast ready to say maybe the cliff is closer than we think and Tom Brady is old and the Patriots are old, or are we scared? What do you think, El?
I'm close.
Boy.
I'm a little close on it. I really am.
I tell you what, I've never seen three guys shift in their chair just as much as with that last statement. They can't see us on the podcast. Everybody's shifting around. But yeah, you're right. You got to be careful about this because you never know what Belichick is doing for motivation. They do need one more playmaker. It's obvious that Chris Hogan can't get out there, make his own plays, and Philip Dorsett's been cut from two other teams for a reason.
Yeah.
So I think that Gronk was getting double and triple teamed on Sunday night. It was pretty obvious that if Brady couldn't go to him when the chips were down, that he was having trouble getting to that. And so if it's Josh Gordon, great. If it's Julian Edelman in 2 weeks, great. If they're 2-2 going into that, getting Edelman back, they'll be fine. They do have to figure out something on the defense, though. Yeah. And you say this every year. I think they just got outmatched on Sunday night. Maybe that was a gift from Belichick to Patricia just to make sure he stays around at least.
Well, he's got to keep his terrible assistants. He's got to keep his terrible assistants out there so he can
employed. Yeah,
that may have been that. So. But I wouldn't read too much into it.
Pops, what say you?
I'm with Tony. I'm not reading too much into it because they got Edelman coming back. I don't know. Josh Gordon is going to at least stretch that defense. He's going to take pressure off Gronk. I don't think Gronk is washed up yet, even though apparently they tried to trade him to Detroit.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a second. We'll
get into that.
Well, there's a lot of stuff to get into about that new book coming out too. Have you seen any of that? Like Brady wanted to get divorced after 18 years?
I just want to hear. Yeah, what were you going to say? What's your thoughts?
Well, I just think I don't know the last time that they've been below average in offense, defense, scoring. Like they're below par in every single field right now, and it just doesn't look like the dynasty teams that we've kind of grown used to. Even their off games, they look like middle of the pack or better. And right now they're just kind of near the bottom in most stats. And I don't know. I just don't see them. They need to, like, Josh Gordon's got to work out, or Edelman's got to come on fire or something like that, because I just feel like there's a lot of tension in that locker room. I think, seeing them, benching Malcolm Butler in the Super Bowl was kind of the catalyst where we started seeing just how none of them get along anymore. And like winning has turned into second nature a little bit. And now that it's not just coming easy, I don't know. I see a lot of tension. I'm not saying like, sell your New England stock right now, but I'm saying like, hold on to it carefully is all I'm saying.
Well, and you mentioned that book that is coming out, and it's supposed to be kind of the tell-all book about Bill Belichick and the Patriots. And part of it, one of the excerpts was talking about how it really shows the relationship between Tom Brady and Belichick is kind of rocky. Like they realize they're married together, and that they're going to, especially once Garoppolo was gone, Brady kind of realized, well, me and Belichick are here for the long run. But it doesn't seem like they know they can win together, but I don't think they like each other. And actually, I don't know if anyone really likes Belichick. I mean, he doesn't seem like a likable guy.
Sleep over it.
No.
Yeah, I don't think it bothers him, but I think you're right. I don't think anybody likes him.
I'll say this, and I said this a little bit last week when we were talking about the Steelers. They bounced back pretty good last night. But, I don't think it matters as much when you're in the locker room. I could give a rat's ass if Tom Brady is going home with Gisele Bundchen, Gisele Nunchucks, or for that matter, hell, he's going on with Gronkowski. I don't care. As long as he gets out on the field and performs, I think that's fine. I think reading into that a little bit, a book for them is not going to make any difference, because I think all they got to do is walk downstairs and say, okay, see all that silver in the corner? That's ours. Okay, see all that money in your bank account? That's yours. Now go out there and earn it. And Belichick has a way of getting people to say, look, I don't give a rat's ass who you are outside of and off the field or outside of this locker room. I just need you out there on the field performing, and we'll see. But, to some of LJ's comments, I agree that their defense is going to have to get better, but they've never had a dominant defense.
That's
their
true.
defense has been one. Their defense has been one of takeaways and getting big 3-and-outs when they needed the 3-and-out to give Brady the ball. And right now, you don't see that playmaker out there that can give them that turnover, and they're going to have to figure that out. Otherwise, they're going to be coming into the playoffs 10-6, 11-5, and getting a wild card, and let's see what they can do. I wouldn't call them a Super Bowl favorite by any stretch of the imagination, but I certainly wouldn't be mentioning them as out of the playoffs.
Well, and let's go to what we kind of mentioned a second ago, and it was the weird report about Gronkowski that Adam Schefter reported on Sunday morning that New England and Detroit had a trade in place for Gronk over the offseason. And when Gronk heard about the trade, that he threatened, you remember his deal with talking about retirement. And it spearheaded at this point, and he was like, all right, if I get traded, I will retire. And he made it very clear that he only wants to play in New England with Tom Brady. And then even more interesting to me was he was asked about it after the game. This is just a report, and one of the reporters asked Gronk afterward. And not only did he confirm the report, but he kind of doubled down on his Brady thing, saying, yeah, it happened. Brady's my quarterback. That's all. I wasn't going anywhere without Brady. I think Gronkowski is one what do y'all think? That they were willing to trade Gronk? Belichick's really good about trading the guy when he thinks they might be done. Does he think Gronk's done?
No, I say this. I think that's some bullshit. So if you're going to tell Gronkowski, hey, by the way, you can go play. You can go play with Matt Stafford, who slings the ball to his tight end, 45% of the time.
With no regard.
Yeah. And if Eric Ebron can catch double-digit touchdowns in this offense, think what you can do. You've got a general manager at Detroit who was an executive for New England. You've got Patricia there. I think Gronk would have gone. He's talking smack right now, but he's not going to quit and freaking get another $20 million. He parties too hard. He's going to need that money in about 8-10 years after he buys a boat that Lifford's got. He's going to need that money.
I don't know. I disagree with you, though, because I've always thought that Gronk is essentially a golden retriever in a human body. And I think he's just pretty loyal to Tom Brady. I don't think he's going anywhere because his owner lives in New England. He's not going to go find a house in Detroit. He's not going to be a stray. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. Just like you're absolutely right. He is like a golden retriever. But I think if you put a golden retriever in a crate, take him over to somebody else's house, after a couple of weeks, he's going to play catch with you.
He'll learn to love a new owner. He'll learn to love Matt Stafford.
Gronk could have made a lot more money at Detroit. He could have made a lot more money. And he chose not to. So
we'll see.
He is pretty loyal to his owner.
I will say
I would hop in Gronk's party boat. Just FYI, like I don't know what the cost would be, but
that is an invitation you do not turn down. If you get that invitation, you cancel everything else. You go.
Oh man, yeah. You bet.
That's how he makes money after he retires.
Before we move off of this topic, I disagree with you, Tony. I think this could be a little bit of Bill Belichick getting into his inner Phil Jackson. I think they did a little trade and they had some talks. And I think Gronk was fully double. Like, I don't think this was BS. He does not want to go play for anyone. I think him and Brady have a set agreement where Brady, and I think you saw it last year, Brady's not going to make the throws where Gronk is having to fully extend out and maybe get hit in the head or legs. And he's going to try to protect his boy because,
did a bit though, right?
But he did once he got to the playoffs. I think once you get to the playoffs and you're against the Jags and they realize we got to,
all bets are off.
All bets are off. We just got to win. And I think Gronk's cool with that. But in the regular season, week 5, don't lay me out against the safety of the lines. Don't lay me out against, we'll win. We'll still end up with 11 wins in the playoffs. And I think there's a little agreement where Gronk, whenever Brady does call it quits, I think Gronk's going to retire right then and there. He's got a hell of a career in the WWE. He's going to get paid a ton of monies to go be Gronk in a movie. He can only play Gronk, but someone will pay him a shit ton of money, just like they do The Rock, to play The Rock.
How much money are you going to pay to see Gronkowski body slam Ronda Rousey?
Oh, man.
I guarantee you that pay-per-view, when he gets in WrestleMania, that pay-per-view is going to get sold like crazy. Gronk is WWE made over. And he's just fun. People can't get enough of him. I think he calls it quit as soon as Brady's done.
Yeah. How about this? Journey to the Center of the Earth, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Rob Gronkowski.
I'm watching. It's probably going to suck, and it's going to be rated a 5.8 on IMDb, but I'm going to go watch it.
I might own it.
Lethal Weapon 25.
Oh, man. Now you've sold me. That's what I'm looking for.
All right, moving on. On to another Bill Belichick disciple, and I think, Tony, you might have something, but another coach that I am just totally out on, what the hell is Bill O'Brien doing in Houston? Tony, do you have something for Houston?
Yeah, I can tell you this. I was in Houston this weekend to watch the Texans and the Giants play, and I'll talk a little bit more about Houston later.
I apologize.
That is a gorgeous stadium, by the way. And I'll tell you what.
It's Reliance Stadium, right?
And it's Reliance. Yeah. I think it's nice. Energy Park now. And it is awesome. It's a great stadium. I'm really sold on indoor stadiums now. It was really great. But 2 things I found out there is, one, Odell Beckham is probably the most phenomenal athlete I've ever seen in person.
Yeah.
And 2 is Bill O'Brien. I think if he went to a restaurant in Houston right now, they'd probably make him pay everybody else's bill than his own, because they were roasting him so hard in the parking lot, on the train. They are ready for him to go. And I don't blame him. I think I saw it's how many in a row is this that Houston's lost? They now have the longest, now that Cleveland has won. I think they have the longest losing streak
at like 10 or 11, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, because they lost 6 in a row to end the season last year. He's gone. It wouldn't surprise me to see him gone in the next week or 2.
Oh, that's
And it's interesting. I mentioned it.
Yeah.
I brought it up, I think, a little bit maybe before. I don't know. Maybe this is just in conversation, but the Browns are in a similar position where they're in a hole because you want your rookie quarterback. Like what happened with Deshaun Watson last year is they brought him in and he took the league by storm. And then people thought, oh, crap, maybe we got to keep Bill O'Brien around because he's the Deshaun Watson whisperer. When really it's no. Get him out the door and let's let Deshaun Watson go. Because right now he's got a pit bull on a leash. And a pit bull's not as scary when it's on a leash. I'll walk by it and act like a badass if it's on a leash. But you let that pit bull off the leash, and I'm running. I'm like, Dad, I'm pushing over pregnant women. I'm gone. And that's how NFL defensive coordinators feel. Like Deshaun Watson's scary, but they run this like fake read where he's not actually going to ever keep it because they're scared to get him hurt. And he hands it off every time. And the NFL know, like those coordinators know, oh, they're not going to let him run because they're scared he'll get hurt. You got to let at some point. Deshaun Watson's great when you let Deshaun Watson be who he is. And they're trying to make him something else. And Bill O'Brien, he's just got to go back under Bill Belichick and be an analyst or offensive guru, but you're not a head coach.
What was he? Yeah. What was he under Belichick? What was his role? Was he wasn't an OC.
He was a coordinator.
Defensive coordinator, I think, wasn't he?
Offensive?
Offense? Was he offense while McDaniels?
I believe he's an offensive guy.
Offensive guy? Offensive line coach?
Because then he went to Penn State and
he went to Penn State, didn't he?
That's right.
Coaching
went to Penn State. Yeah, I think did McDaniels replace him then?
Went to Penn State and actually did pretty decent.
Yeah. Well, here's what I'll say.
They were on Hard Knocks, weren't they?
Yeah.
A couple of years back. Yeah. That game, you got to see in that game, Tony. J.J. Watt finally looked like the old J.J. Watt. My goodness, he was dominating.
And I will say this, he is the favorite son of Houston. I mean, he every time they said his name, that he got on the field, he made those plays, that place erupted. And it's a pretty loud place. But, Kevin, real quick, I'm going to kind of disagree a little bit on your Deshaun Watson comment. Watching him in person for the first time and really watching, his arm is not near as strong as I thought it was. And I think we may be looking more of a Dak Prescott than we are more of a Cam Newton, somebody who can run and really control that run option. Because he just doesn't. He underthrew. Lamar Miller was wide open on a 2nd and goal. They had been pushed back about 20 yards because of penalties, but he was wide open. He underthrew him about 3 or 4 yards. And that happened a couple of times where he bounced the ball in. Either he is not 100% and he can't push off and get what he needs on the throw, or he just doesn't have the arm that he needs to have to continue to stay in the league. We may see a Dak Prescott.
I proposed a question to y'all yesterday or last week, and I still think the jury, I don't know if we know for sure if Deshaun Watson is good or not. Like, I know last year was awesome and maybe we overbought in, but I just think if I got to put if I'm Houston and I got to put all my eggs in one basket, whether it be the Bill O'Brien or Deshaun Watson, I'm going to go with Deshaun Watson and let that one
more upside
fall
for sure.
apart before I do Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, no doubt.
Saying the other game that was, I think probably the best game of the week last week had to be Atlanta and New Orleans, and that the overtime win for New Orleans. And just real quick, I know we mentioned it last week, but I just can't get enough of that spin move by Drew Brees to square. I wonder what it's got to be like when those Atlanta Falcons are watching film and they pause it. The coach pauses it and sees a safety and a linebacker are running at 45-year-old Drew Brees or whatever he is now, and he goes, "How do we not tackle this man? Y'all both miss," and he gets a touchdown. Drew Brees is a gamer, but he cannot slip that tackle. There's just no way that should ever happen.
Yeah, two guys just got fined for the Atlanta Falcons. That's a kangaroo court fine right there. But I will say this: the last time I saw a spin move like that from an old man was when Lifford posted 2 guys up, spun around him, and did a scoop shot at Bates Gym. That's the last time I saw a move like that.
Drew Brees is great. That game was fun. that game showed me, I think Calvin Ridley, one, it made me wonder why the hell he went to 27 in the draft and why the hell the Cowboys missed. He looks exactly like what the Cowboys are missing on the outside. But I think he's the missing piece for that offense, and he's going to really – because, they've had Julio, they've had Matt Ryan, Devontae Freeman hopefully comes back soon. They got some running backs. But now they got that second – Sanu's okay. He's good, but he's not dangerous. What Calvin Ridley showed me is he can do a little bit of everything. He had the route running on his first touchdown where he made a corner pretty much fall on a little hitch and go. Then he had a burner where he just scored a 75-yard touchdown where he just straight up burned somebody. And then he had another one when he was in the red zone where he just kind of played the scramble drill with Matt Ryan. I love me some Calvin Ridley. That dude looked like a beast.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
You think he's going to continue that? You think? I mean, that.
Well, I think he's kind of the what unleashed that offense. So we talked a lot about Sarkisian and that red zone offense in week 1, and they look good the last 2 weeks against Carolina and New Orleans. Who I guess we don't know if New Orleans defense is that good because we talked a little bad about them after Fitz magic, but. I love what Matt Ryan in that offense is. I think what's going to hold back the Falcons, and they would be my buy of the week, but their defense just is not going to be able to hold up. They've been ravaged by injuries when they lost Deion Jones and Keanu Neal in week 1. Since then, I was looking up a stat. Since both those guys were kind of, Deion Jones plays linebacker for him, but he's more of he's got like safety speed. He's one of those hybrid players, and he is so important to their team because both of those guys they have run a defensive scheme where they can pretty much just man up. And those running backs that are real shifty, like McCaffrey and Kamara, they can usually put one of those safeties and he can just man them up and they fit athletically. But since those guys have gone out in the last 2 weeks, Christian McCaffrey had 14 catches on 15 targets for over 100 yards. And then last week, Kamara had 15 catches on 20 targets for 120 yards. So it's just, and since 2000, I think, what was it? Bill Barnwell, a guy I follow on ESPN, he's a good follow. On Twitter, he said that's only happened 3 times in the last 5 years, and 2 of them have been to the Falcons in the last 2 weeks. Teams know how to attack them now, and those are the 2 best receiving running backs maybe in the NFL. I think LJ was saying a while back, Kamara might be the most dangerous. Tyreek Hill's up there, I guess, but Kamara in open field is that guy will run you over. He'll juke you. He can do it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, he is something special.
And then on that note, next week, just for you daily fantasy guys, I don't know if you want to take my advice, but they play the Bengals next week, and Gio Bernard is a pass-catching back, and I think Mixon's still going to be out, so he might be the guy to go get in any daily fantasy stuff because that's the way to attack Atlanta.
I was thinking.
Oh, there you go. Kevin laying down the knowledge. Watch out.
Laying down. So we got them both on the pod this week. We got to bring them up. We got to bring up the man, the myth, the legend, the NFL already crowned the MVP of the NFL, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Tony, what do you got? What do you got?
Well, I'll tell you what, this kid is something. And, it's been all over the place. So you saw the scramble that he made, and he must have run about 40 yards and on the run to the right and slung a bullet into the corner of the end zone. And that was just a phenomenal. So what that tells me is
it reminded me of some Tony Romo a little bit, Tony.
Yeah. Oh, geez. No, not Tony Romo. That 3-quarter action that he's got really reminds me of Brett Favre, and they've been saying that for a while, and I don't like to get on anybody else's bandwagon, but it really, when you started watching it, it's a big old wind-up of a throw, and he really gets in there and 3-quarters it, and the kid can sling the football. I've still got a problem, though. The Chiefs scored 35 points in the first half and 3 in the second, and let those guys get back into the ball game. That is a problem for the Kansas City Chiefs. They have got to figure out how to get Kareem Hunt into the ball game so they can control the ball in the second half and do something on the ground.
Yeah, they've learned how to jump out on teams. They need to learn the what do they call it in the NFL, the fourth quarter, like that 8-minute offense where you just can kill the clock and have a 12-play 80-yard drive where you just kill in 9 minutes or something. LJ, what are you still kind of hedging your Patty Mahomes bets, or do you like it? Where do you stand on?
I do think I've been correctly outed as scared of Patty Mahomes. I think that is absolutely accurate. That was astute.
Monday night. You're gonna have to watch it Monday night.
Well, okay. So here's what I'll say about that: is the Broncos are not a great team, but I think this offense is an exhausting offense, and playing that Mile High, I think it's going to be a closer game than it looks like it's going to be. I don't think the Broncos win it, but I do think it's going to be shockingly close. So, I mean, I still think the Chiefs are good, just, 3 or 4 games from showing us what they are going to be late in the season. But yeah, Patty Mahomes is for real. I'm taking back a little bit of let's not call him a once in a generation talent. But he is for real.
The LeBron James of the NFL over here.
Yeah. Right. He might be the Sebastian Telfair. Give us a second.
I will say this. It's going to be fun to watch Mahomes versus Miller on Monday night.
Well, if they let him
let's see
tackle it,
what
that's
Vaughn
the
can bring.
Monday night's a bad night
he's
to
not
try
allowed to actually hit him.
Yeah. I am very interested to see that. I think that's going to be a good matchup. If we'll see what the line comes. I haven't seen the line yet, but it may be that the Broncos are a good bet on that, and they'll bring it back to at the very end because Case Keenum is still a good quarterback. They have developed a good run game with Freeman and Lindsey, so they have gotten where they can run the ball like they want to run the ball with a committee. And hey, Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas, they're not half bad. So you gotta the Broncos. I think LJ, to the credit, they're a better team I think than you may be looking for out of them. And it wouldn't surprise me to see the Broncos take one there in Mile High from the Chiefs.
It's possible. It's definitely possible. I could see it. But
before moving off of them, I do just some of the stats I was reading about what that offense is doing. Through 3 games, the Chiefs have scored 15 offensive touchdowns, which ties them with the 98 49ers and the 2013 Broncos. I know you remember watching them a little bit, El.
Yep.
For the most through 3 games since the merger. And they joined the 2007 Patriots as the only team since the merger to score at least 5 or more touchdowns in each of their first 3 games. They need to learn how to make 4 quarters. I agree with you, Tony, but man, they can score points and they can score them fast.
They can score points. Is that 07 Patriots team? Was that the Randy Moss year?
Yeah.
Was that Brady's 40-something? Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
That was when Brady threw for 50 touchdowns. Moss broke the record for receiving. I think.
I wonder,
Pops, do you remember
win the Fantasy Bowl that year? Was that an acromegaly year?
Yeah, I remember that because I had Randy Moss and I had Tom Brady, and I've still got records in our league for most points scored. I lost 1 game in the regular season, and I defended that in the Fantasy Bowl against the team that beat me, and I was just a badass.
I bet
what a talent!
What people really wanted to hear when they clicked play on this episode, they really wanted to hear how Dad's fantasy team was in 07, like how good they were. Maybe the best. Maybe the best fantasy football team of all time. I'm just throwing it out there.
We talk about the 72 Dolphins and the 07 Acromegalies in the same breath. It's just
absolutely. He was no Cordell Stewart. I'll say that though.
That was the other time I won. But anyway,
the last thing I wanted to mention on the Chiefs, where do we put Tyreek Hill on the list of wide receivers? Is he up there with the Odell, Julio's, Antonio Browns, or is he still the tier below?
Well, it's a totally different player.
I agree with that. It depends on, are we talking fantasy? We're talking actual.
I noticed in that game, specifically last week, Mahomes took a shot deep to him, which he's going to do that a lot, but he took a shot deep, and it wasn't just Tyreek Hill had burned someone. It was Tyreek Hill kind of went up in between 2 guys and caught a ball over everyone. And I was just kind of like, it just took me aback a little bit. And I think with the way Andy Reid uses him with Mahomes at quarterback, I guess, there's a difference. Fantasy-wise, he probably is right there with him, but does he change a game quite like Julio and D-Hop and Odell and some of the Antonio Brown?
I would say it like this. He's a game changer, no doubt, but he's not who you plan to shut down. He's not like a Julio or an Odell or Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, who you've got to say, look, we're going to have to double team this guy and shut him down in order to have an opportunity to beat this team. He's going to go deep. He's going to catch 3 to 4 balls a game. And he's, you just got to hope to keep that to a minimum. So he's a game changer, but I don't think he's someone that you plan your game around on who to stop.
I hate agreeing with you, but that's dead on.
No, they're trying to stop Travis Kelce. When you play the Chiefs, you're trying to stop Travis Kelce. That's who you're trying to keep from scoring.
Yeah, I'm with that.
And I want to go to the next game on my list was I almost don't want to bring it up, but the Seattle Dallas game.
Oh.
The first thing, real quick, I want to get this off because I know we're going to have a longer discussion on Mr. Prescott. But the Earl Thomas Seattle thing is kind of the most fascinating thing the storyline I'm watching this year, just because like he wants to be traded. He's sitting out of practice and the team can't bench him because he's clearly the best player on the field every time he comes out there. He single-handedly looked like he won that game. But on to what I know Tony wants to talk about, and that is, God, what I think I have to take back my Dak Prescott is just as good as Jared Goff. I retract that statement. It was crazy to see just not that long ago, Cowboy fans were, forget Romo, Dak Prescott is the future. You know, the Cowboys found their franchise quarterback. And on Twitter yesterday, it was like, Jerry, you need to cut your quarterback. Go find a real quarterback. It was crazy, the 180-degree turn I've seen with Dak Prescott.
Sounds like every Cowboy fan I've ever met.
And last week, I think it was either last week or the week before, I mentioned that I think I had the statement that Dak Prescott is just as good as Jared Goff, just doesn't have the coach. I'm not retracting the full statement. I am. So the first part, yes, Dak Prescott is – Jared Goff made throws this week. The Rams and Jared Goff are amazing. He made some throws that I kind of was like, maybe I am selling him short. That guy, I don't think he's quite lived up to the first overall potential yet, but I think the potential's there. He made some throws that I just couldn't believe that not many guys can make, that Dak Prescott cannot make. And I think Dak is not the best thing, but I just don't understand. It's not Dak that I'm jumping off of as much as, God, as long as Jason Garrett's there, this team will not figure it out. And he doubled down that Scott Linehan's going to keep running the offense. And good. Let's just burn up all year and get rid of Garrett. If this is what it takes to get rid of Garrett, let's go 1-15. Like it's just terrible, Tony. But you're right. I do cede Jared Goff is a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. 100%.
Well, I knew you'd come around, Kevin, so I didn't have any doubts about it. So I didn't say much about that comment. But I will say this: this is why it's so frustrating to be a Dallas Cowboys fan. You're out there and you lose to what is arguably the worst Seattle Seahawks team in the last 10 years. And it's
whose second best player is a punter.
His second best player is a punter, and you lost to him. You lost to the punter, damn it. And for Jerry Jones to come out and say, hey, I'm not worried. Everything's fine. We've got good players. We've got good coaches. I've got faith in them. Well, that's a bunch of bullshit. That's the most ridiculous thing an owner can come out and say. If I'm the boss of a team and we just screwed up 2 or 3 reports, I'm not going to come in and I'm going to say, it's okay. We're all good. I know y'all didn't party all weekend. I know y'all didn't have your head in the game. No, I'm going to come in and I'm going to chew some ass. I'm going to say, hey, look, man, you blew those gas reports. We lost $40,000 this weekend, and it's because you didn't price the gas right. I'm not going to come in and say, oh, no, I've got full credit with everybody. Everything's fine. It's going to be okay. No, I'm going to chew some ass. And if Jerry Jones is going to sit there and say, oh, no, I've got complete faith in these guys and not do anything about it, just forget it. I'm done. It's just they're never – they have got to make some changes because mediocre does not cut it in the National Football League.
I couldn't agree with you. It's funny if Jerry Jones was in, and if this was not his football team and just his business, and someone was screwing up as much as Jason Garrett and that team has, he wouldn't settle for it. He would not settle for it. But he loves the fact that Jason Garrett lets him keep his finger on the pulse, and he's always one call away from making a decision. And it just you watch that, and Dad has mentioned this before, not as much about the Cowboys. I'm sure he has mentioned this about the Cowboys, but there's just things mentally that the Cowboys do. You watched Zeke Elliott, that touchdown he should have had where he went out of bounds. He stepped out of bounds and ended up not getting called for the touchdown. That's just not knowing where you're on the field and a lack of attention to detail to me. And then later in the game, you see he has that amazing run, and you just know if people are coming up behind you, that you see running backs all the time. Once you kind of can feel people coming up, you wrap the ball up. He's still running with it out here and he fumbles. There's just attention to detail that the Cowboys don't and seem like they've never had. They've always lacked it. And it's at some point, the man at the top needs to be held accountable. You cut Dez, you let go of Romo, you cut Witt, and this year it was like, all right, we got rid of Dez and the cancer in the locker room. The cancer is the head coach. It's not Dez. It's the head coach, and we got to get rid of him. And as long as we keep him clapping around, we're going to keep clapping our way to 8-8. Maybe every now and then we win 10 games and go to the playoffs, but they're just mediocre. I don't even think they're mediocre.
Like a dream this year.
Yeah, they're not mediocre. Is actually above what they are. They are below average as an NFL team, and I feel bad for that defense that comes out there and plays really good football for most of the game, and then they have to sit there and watch their offense just look awful. And now Sean Lee's out for at least 2 or 3 weeks. And I don't want to say Sean Lee's not like the best defensive player ever, but it is clear when he's not in on that defense, they struggle.
Makes a difference. Yeah.
And I said that last week. Sean Lee's great when he's in there, but he's never in there. And now not only does he have one hamstring strain, he's got 2. How the hell do you get 2 hamstring strains? What is he out there doing, the bunny hop or something? I mean, that's ridiculous. Come on, man. How do you get 2 hamstring strains? That's, I'll make another Lifford comment about his basketball game, but I've done that already. So, it's just, so to me, and shout out to both the Lutheringer boys for making articles out there about what's wrong with America. But here's what's really wrong with America. Forbes came out last week and gave the listing of the most valuable football franchises in the country. And guess who's number 1? Dallas Cowboys, because they've got all this stuff. And why? So if I'm Jerry Jones, hey, I'm making all the money until people stand up and stop coming to the game, stop buying the merchandise, stop parking in his parking lot. He's going to keep doing what he's doing. It's just the path of least resistance, and that's what's wrong with America right there.
Dad, do you have any thoughts you want to say on the Cowboys, or did we pretty much sum it up?
Well, that's what's wrong with the Cowboys. I'd say that's what's wrong with the Cowboys, and it does start at the top, and it starts at Jerry Jones. I mean, that's where it starts. As long as he's going to have yes men around him, he's going to not succeed. He's going to be mediocre at best in the NFL, and mediocre does not cut it. I mean, I'd give mediocre for my Arkansas Razorbacks right now. I would take it, but
except for special teams.
But yeah, I mean, it's a bad time for me as a football fan because Dallas sucks. And I don't see him getting any better. Dak Prescott's throwing for 130 yards a game, and he can't do anything but dink and dunk it down the field. We can't go deep except, one busted coverage, I think 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago. And the Razorbacks are just, I don't know that they got another win on their record. So it's a long season for me.
Yeah. Well, and I told you last week, Dad, it was a great day of watching football. I didn't have I was watching the Razorbacks just blow up. And they look good offensively and defensively, but I watched them shoot themselves in the foot on special teams, and I didn't even care because I was like, it's all right. Yeah. So we've already chalked this year up. And then when the Cowboys shot themselves in the foot, I was like, hey, I expected this. This is fine. It's okay.
I'm going to start boating. I'm going to go boating on Saturday and Sunday is what I'm going to start doing.
You need that dollars per hour to come down.
I mentioned that my last thing, I'm not completely off of the Dak Prescott. I don't think he's a terrible quarterback. I will say, as I mentioned, Tony, he's not Jared Goff. He doesn't have the arm Jared Goff has, but I think he could be okay. I was looking up. So my big spiel has been that, if McVay had the same offense, they would be a lot better. They'd be like the Rams. I don't know if they wouldn't be as good as the Rams, but interesting stat that I found. So in 19 regular season games, McVay's been there. Last year was his first year and then into this year. In 19 regular season games, he's scored over 31 points 12 times. Their offense has. For the Cowboys, since 2011, when Jason Garrett, who was the offensive coordinator, he's the offensive guy, they've played over 180 games. They've scored over 31 points 20 times, only 8 more times than Sean McVay's Rams. And Sean McVay has done it with a rookie quarterback and all these guys that like Robert Woods was given to him. I mean, it's just Jason Garrett doesn't have any creativity and Sean McVay does. And I still stick with, if you gave Sean McVay this offense, they're not as good as this Rams one, but they're a lot better. There's some talent out there and then we just don't use it at all.
Man,
it blows my mind.
Kevin, I'll make this prediction right now, and I think Dak Prescott's a wonderful human being, and he's a great example for those kids out there to work hard and make something of yourself. But
there's a big but coming.
There's a big old but coming.
And maybe sooner than this, but 3 years from now, Dak Prescott is a backup quarterback for somebody, and he'll be a backup quarterback for 4 or 5 years, and then he'll be done. And then he'll be assistant. He'll be assistant coach for special operations for Mississippi State.
That'll be interesting to see if that rolls out. The other guy,
he's a fourth round draft pick. Other than
that
Kurt
translates
Warner,
perfectly.
maybe somebody. Anyway,
that
Kurt Warner's the only low round draft pick that's ever been something.
Other than Kurt
Tom
Warner,
Brady was a 6th round draft pick.
Have you ever heard of Tom Brady?
Yeah, you got me on that. You got me on that. I got
there's that guy.
Tony Romo.
Don't start with Tony Romo now.
I'm not going to have Tony Romo slander on this podcast. We are moving on to the next topic. So, speaking of backup quarterbacks, and one guy that has made a living, as LJ has mentioned, on a few good games and making a paycheck out of it, we saw Monday night. We saw it was like the best of hits of Fitzpatrick, Fitzmagic, Fitztragic, Picks Magic. I mean, it was insane. I mean, he threw 3 picks in the span of like 5. If you blinked, he threw 3 interceptions, and Twitter was like, here we go, Jameis Winston. It's time for the new quarterback. And then all of a sudden, second half started, and you see him doing the crazy eyes. I didn't realize this, but apparently Harvard has like a celebration. And when he threw that touchdown to Cameron Brate, they're both from Harvard, and they threw up the H on their chest. It was fascinating. I mean, I don't know what to make with Fitzpatrick, but the topic I want to get to more in that game was Big Ben and the Steelers. There was a lot of topics going around. Last week we had it was Tony basically saying he's buying the Steelers and that they were going to be back, and Big Ben's there. And I was a little skeptical. And then LJ came in and made me almost Tony almost talked me into the Steelers or Big Ben's there. And then I think last week I kind of was ready to go. Steelers are done. Where do we stand with the Steelers? LJ, I think you've kind of been kind of steadfast where you're at. What'd you think about Big Ben?
Oh, I just think Big Ben's the exact same thing that he's always been. Is his biggest talent is that he's 6'5" and surrounded by talented people. And that's it. That's all he's got. Because all he has to do is dump it off to Smith-Schuster. That's all he does. It's like if you look at his passing charts, you see how many people he throws to outside of 15 yards. Well, he overthrows them. So that's his talent. Is he can throw it really far, but like not at a person. He can just throw it far. Like he can throw it over that mountain over there. And he's 6'5", so he doesn't like go down easy. But like all he does is dump it off to somebody. That's what he does.
Oh,
that's his talent.
Uncle Tony, I know you got a response to that.
Yeah, all he is 6'5" and stand in the pocket and throw the football. You know what? I think you just described the prototypical NFL quarterback. That is.
Well, I mean, if I had 6 seconds, I could succeed in that offense.
Yeah,
is all
but
I'm saying.
He's big enough. I think the thing that he gets discounted, doesn't get enough credit for, is that he's able to get out of tackle. He's able to get out of a sack and move around.
Yeah.
And so, but he doesn't do it. He doesn't have to do it by scrambling 10 or 12 yards. He does it by stepping up in the pocket and taking that hit. And that's one thing I think he does the best of just about any other quarterback in the NFL, standing in that pocket, taking the hit and delivering the football. And yeah, he is throwing a little bit more short than he used to, but dude, there's a couple of those post patterns where he hit Smith-Schuster and then that one down the sideline to Antonio Brown. Those were phenomenal passes. And yeah, he may not be what he was 7 years ago, but he's still a pretty damn good quarterback. I'd take him, and people discount him in fantasy football. They keep discounting him, and he keeps coming back and scoring points.
Well, I mean, stats are not everything, though. I mean, I think Tim Tebow in that offense has got some stats too. That's a good team. That's a talented team.
Whoa, are you saying
skill everywhere?
I don't know if we should mention Tim Tebow and Ben Roethlisberger in the same book.
I think Fitzmagic could maybe throw a couple in there, but I think Roethlisberger, you just can't discount how he can see over a defense and deliver the football.
I mean, yeah, his height is something. Yeah. If you want a tall guy, I mean, I'm sure he's the only tall guy out there, so I'm glad that they picked him up.
I have a little bit. So I want to I'm going to be right. I'm stuck on the fence still. I'm straddling it. I agree with LJ to the extent that I don't know if there's a quarterback that's been surrounded throughout his career with better talent than Roethlisberger has been surrounded by. They have had that franchise has been so good about getting receivers. And then you look at them this year, a couple years back, I know Dad's mentioned this before, but a couple years back, they drafted Mike Wallace and he ended up being good. Emmanuel Sanders you just see these receivers come to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Plaxico Burress way back. They play really good with the Steelers and then they go get a big contract somewhere else because the Steelers know or just draft another one and they'll end up figuring out and then this year, I think they've done the same thing. I think Antonio Brown is great. Don't get me wrong. He's one of the best receivers in the game. Juju Smith-Schuster is not that far behind him. He is really, really good.
Antonio Brown's not a secret to anybody anymore either. Like you know what you're dealing with him.
And it helps.
Smith-Schuster has some talent.
It helps Smith-Schuster that they're double teaming Antonio Brown all the time. But then I think James Washington, you'll see later this year, the kid from Oklahoma State. He's going to be really good. And then Jesse James is a solid tight end. And then we didn't even mention Vance McDonald broke the internet with that stiff arm. Chris Conte, I saw today, Chris Conte, the safety for the Bucks, he's out for the remainder of the season. And then, the parentheses, they usually put an injury. They just put soul by Chris Conte because he's done. He has to quit football. He's done with football because he got thrown 5 yards by that big old tight end. And then you saw the tight end ran, I don't know what he ran in the 40, but he was moving down that sideline. He was going like a good 4-4.
He's no spring chicken either. That's Vance McDonald. It's not like he's some rookie or something. But one of the greatest things I saw in that game is when they slowed it down, when Vance McDonald gave the shiver. If you look over
Hayward behind him,
and his face is classic. It's like, oh damn!
He we'll put it in the show notes. He's like point, like you just see him point at the guy on the ground, and his face is just going, damn!
It was something, man. That was great. That was awesome. That was awesome.
And then, by the way, Roethlisberger has also had, we mentioned the weapons he has. He also has had the best running back in the NFL the past 3 or 4 years. And this isn't new. He has had talent all around him. But to Tony's credit,
I'm just saying,
the
play that sealed the game. Well, the play that sealed the game is exactly what Tony's talking about. I know James Conner made a few runs, but I think we clearly, it's no doubt now, they're missing a little something with Bell because James Conner, while he's okay, he is definitely not even close to Le'Veon Bell. But you saw the play that sealed it. It wasn't a run because they went to Big Ben and he did his little thing. It was that, I don't understand it because he looks like he's slow and it looks like he's about to fall the whole time. But lo and behold, he always finds someone on 3rd and 9, and he did the Big Ben play. It was the Big Ben play.
He did take 3 fingers to the forehead, so I think he might be in the walking boot for the rest of the week. We'll see what happens. But
hey, come on, man, you gotta love that fall. That was awesome. Dink, you hit me on the head. I'm down.
The flop, the Neymar flop, is what I gotta love.
Hey, until you've been hit by the Jason Pierre-Paul club, you don't know what hit means.
So let's get
JPP
on to that.
Looking after JPP.
Let's real quick get on to that roughing the pass stuff. It was on all week. We already talked Clay Matthews last field. We won't get into that one. But then Monday night, it was like the refs wanted to make an even bigger point to call roughing the passer. The one that got me, I've never seen. They had Gerald McCoy mic'd up, and you see him as he's going to hit Big Ben. He apologizes, but almost before he hits him, he's saying, sorry, Ben. And he hits him, and he literally does. He pulls his hands. He's like pulling his hands back to make sure I don't do anything. And it just, you can't, when a big man starts letting off and hits another big man, someone's going to fall. And Big Ben fell, and they called the penalty. And that one, you're like, oh my God. But okay, whatever. He did kind of hit him. So I was like, what? Maybe. But then, like y'all mentioned, the one where Pierre-Paul accidentally taps Big Ben on the top of the head and Big Ben falls down like he's Neymar or like he's
he threw his arms up too. That was the best part. He threw his arms up and then fell.
He had the audacity after the game to say that, I think they're calling. I'm a quarterback and it benefits me and I don't even like seeing these calls. What the hell are you doing then? Why did you flop like that?
Did you hear what he said?
Yeah.
Did you hear what he said today?
What did he say?
Yeah.
He said that after he got hit in the head, he heard his helmet ring like a bell.
You already got the 15 yards and the automatic first down, Ben. What are we doing?
Yeah, he's talking on Tuesday about how his helmet rang.
Ow, you hit me.
Whatever, dude.
You hit me in the microphone. Ow.
Just like Tony said,
hit, walking boot and 2 broken fingers.
Big Ben's known for rumbling and bumbling and finding someone on 3rd down, and he's also known for on Tuesday playing up any injury he possibly can. You saw him after he got slightly hit. He was like holding his elbow a little bit. He is the most dramatic quarterback I've ever seen in my entire football watching life.
Come on, man. Well, I will say this. Yeah, two things. You saw first, that hit to the head would have been a penalty last year. Any blow to the head by the court, just grazing it has been a penalty for 2 or 3 years. But 2 things happened today. One, the money men got together, the competition committee, and started bringing up this rule. And those are the money. Those are the money guys. And so if they're starting to get together and talk about it, they had a teleconference.
There won't be any rule changes this year, but maybe for next year or in the future. Yes, I did see that, though.
But what that means is that there's going to be a little phone call to the referees, and they're going to say, hey, look, this is where we need to kind of pull this back a little bit. I know you guys are calling it the way the rule is, but just like the catch rule, let's interpret it like this. and I think you'll see those things come back a little bit. I think's what will happen there.
Well, and on that, I'd like to I think the refs deserve a shout out. Like they're terrible calls, but they're letter of the law.
They're calling what
they know that they're bad
call,
calls. But they're standing up knowing that they're going to be on every sports talk show talking about how trash they are, and they're doing it right. They're doing their job perfectly. So,
and the second thing is I forgot which. Oh yeah, I forgot which defensive lineman came out today and said he tore his ACL trying to avoid.
It was the Dolphins defensive lineman, and there's a play where you see he doesn't.
Oh, is that what it was?
He doesn't want to put his body weight on the guy, so he tries to like stop himself, and his knee hyperextends, and he tears his ACL.
And so that was the second thing that happened. So now these guys are going to say, look what this is doing to not only what it's doing to the game, but now other players are getting hurt trying to keep this from happening. Unless we start to put flags on the damn quarterback and letting him, grab his flag, he's tackled, then, they're going to have to let the guys get hit some.
I just think.
I think you're right. I think we're seeing that there's not a line to cross, one way or another. But there's extremes. Yeah. There's only two ways to do this, and it's let's keep everybody safe, or let's let everybody get hurt. And I don't think there's a big in between. And that kind of sucks. I kind of wish there was a big.
We've seen
I think
it
the only
before.
thing they could do. The only thing they could do to change it. Or sorry, Kevin. The only thing they could do to change it right now is if they went back and started enforcing the in the grasp rule a little bit more strenuously, so that way if a defensive lineman could just grab him, then hey, in the grasp, play over. Because what's happened since they relaxed that rule is that now these defensive linemen are starting to have to hit the quarterback more, and that happened. Tom Brady was one of those guys that caused that in the grasp rule to be kind of let go a little bit. So.
Well, and
absolutely,
I just think I know like Clay Matthews has been killed with these roughing the passers, and there's a reason. And part of it, I think they look at him a little closer because in the past he's really hit some quarterbacks, and you just know the rule got made off that Anthony Barr one to Aaron Rodgers, and you can tell when a defensive lineman can tell when there's some malicious intent when they're going, all right, I didn't get my sack, but I'm still going to make him pay for it. And you can tell these guys aren't doing that. They're just trying to tackle him, and then he throws it right beforehand, so a guy gets hit, and that happens. And we can call the ones when you pick up their leg and drive him into the ground afterward. I'm okay with calling that. That's okay. Yeah. I want to have my quarterbacks play. I know we're going to have to watch like 5 primetime football games now where Jimmy Garoppolo is not playing for the 49ers, and that sucks. I hate that. But let a defensive lineman do his job. You can't make him not touch the quarterback. Then like Tony said, put a flag on him or let him hit him some. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Got to do something. Got to change that somehow. And there's a big difference between Powell driving him on top of his shoulder and he breaks his collarbone, and the Aaron Rodgers deal that they say this is all caused from, and Flack catching the quarterback right in his chest and just tackling. There's a big difference, and they've got to figure that out.
All right. Well, let's wrap up how we always do. And I know you're not buying the NFL rules committee right now. No one probably is. No. But Tony, I'll start off with you.
Well, I mean, now everybody's selling.
Yeah, you can buy them cheap. You can buy them cheap.
I'm cheap.
We'll start off
low risk.
We'll start off with Uncle Tony. Tony, who you got for this week on your? Who you got? Who you buying this week?
Okay, so staying with our tradition of having somebody different than you had last week. I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins.
Hey,
they're 3-0.
I was looking at
now.
them.
And when you look at their offensive stats, they are still middle of the road. They're scoring, but they're scoring in weird ways, and they're just kind of figuring some stuff out. But you know what? The defense has turned around, and the AFC East, with Buffalo going out there and beating Minnesota, even with that, the AFC East has turned to where they're not necessarily that good of a division, and they've got a 2-game lead on the New England Patriots, and big game this week as those two meet, I think. But I think I'm going with the Dolphins.
Well, so that's an interesting one, and I saw LJ said he was thinking about it too, and I was looking at it too. I started to look up some stuff, and I don't think people realize that the Ryan Tannehill Adam Gase connection in Miami. Tannehill's basically seen as an average quarterback, and I'm not saying I'm on the side going he's an above average, he's a really good player, franchise guy. But it is interesting that in the last 12 starts that Ryan Tannehill has had, he is 11-1 in his last 12 games that he has started. And under Adam Gase, the Dolphins are 10-5 when Ryan Tannehill starts, and they're 8-12 when he doesn't. They're just better when he's at quarterback. And it's like Tony said, it's not flashy stats. It's going to end up being like 230 yards, but it's usually 2 touchdowns and no picks. and he also runs for like a long third down when it's crucial. They just get it done. They get it done.
Yep, absolutely. And hey, in the girlfriend/wife sweepstakes, he's doing pretty good. You got to like that.
He's doing very well in that category. He's right up there with the Tom Brady's.
He might not be up there with Aaron Rodgers and Danica Patrick, but she's not bad. She's not bad.
I like you're going with. I'm with you. They've already 3-0. They got a lead. They're going to get to play the Bills 2 more times. The route for them to make the playoffs is not crazy at all right now. So,
right.
LJ, who do you got this week for you? Who are you buying this week?
Well, so I was looking at a bunch of stats. I was really trying to prove that Ben Roethlisberger is a garbage quarterback, and the stats really didn't back me up. So I didn't want to bring that up at all. But I did find the turnover differentials for all the teams. And for 31 of the teams, they're either between 4 and -4. And for one team, they've got a 9. And so I'm buying the Cleveland Browns right now.
I'm telling you. Let me hear it. They're going to get stuck. They're going to get stuck because this talent is there and the team's there. And they're going to, despite Hugh Jackson, Baker Mayfield and that defense is going to win like 8 games. And it's going to be the first time where the Browns didn't lose. So they're going to go, well, we got to give Hugh Jackson an extension. And they're going to be stuck with them.
Yep. That's going to happen. You know what I'm buying.
But yeah, I'm with
Stay on that road, LJ. Stay on that road, my friend.
The only problem is I don't think you're buying cheap anymore. You probably could have bought cheap before, but now people love the Baker Mayfield hype. I don't know if y'all watched after that game. We thought Dad had a man crush on Malcolm Gladwell. Michael Irvin had a huge man crush on Baker Mayfield. He couldn't get enough of him. Kept getting out of his chair and like rubbing his back. It was kind of weird, but the hype on Baker is going to go through the roof. And I understand dude's good. And that talent, like you said, the defense creates turnovers. I like that actually.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? From a standpoint of buying low, that's a pretty good buy because Baker Mayfield could actually. I think the only lower you could go, and not still. I don't think Kevin's going with Buffalo right here, but I think you could.
Josh Allen, baby,
you could buy any lower, and Baker Mayfield could turn that over. They actually could have a winning record this year. I'll say that. I don't know if they're making the playoffs, but I think Cleveland's going to win it.
I think I agree with you. I don't know about that.
So the team I'm going to buy, and this one isn't flashy, I don't think, but I'm just thinking I'm getting in at the right time. And I am, you know what? Sell anyone who's thinking about selling the New England Patriots stock, give it here. I'm buying all of it. I think people are insane, and I'll tell you why. So they're lacking. I think when you watch them, they're lacking play. They're lacking their Deion Lewis from last year, that running back that can kind of do a little bit between tackles. And I think Sony Michel he's only played like one real game. He played the week before, but barely. I think he'll get there. There's talent there. And then what you're seeing on the outside, Gronk hasn't. If you're saying Gronk's lost step, I don't think so. I think he'll be just fine. But what you're seeing is there's literally, and Tony mentioned it earlier, there's no one else to guard on that offense. They can just triple team him. And Chris Hogan, they're trying to use him in the slot, and that's just not what he does. He's an outside guy. They're missing, not only are they missing Edelman, but they're missing Amendola. Like all the guys that Tom Brady loves in the slot, he doesn't have right now. So you give them 2 weeks. Say if they can find a way to win this game against the Dolphins, they're 2-2, and then they get Josh Gordon. I don't know if he's going to be great. I'm not jumping on he's going to be the Randy Moss, this year's Randy Moss or anything, but you got to at least factor him in. You probably need to have a safety over the top. Then you get Tom Brady's boy in the middle, Edelman, and then Hogan gets back to his natural position, and now Gronk's getting back to one-on-one coverage. I just think there's still an easy route, and it's still the AFC East. They still get to play the Jets and Bills 2 times a year. The Dolphins, as much as I'm with you, I think I'm buying them. There's nothing that just completely scares me about the Dolphins. They're still kind of average. I'm buying the Patriots. I think they'll be just fine.
That's not a bad buy right there. I have to agree with you. And as we talked earlier, my only concern is about their defense. But you know what? They could be like, God, I can't remember which one. Pick whichever version of the Patriots. There's so damn many of them. It's one of the where they just outscored everybody. They knew the defense was lousy. They give us 2 turnovers and we'll outscore everybody. They could try to turn into that and ride Brady off into the sunset. He can trade in his 40-year-old supermodel for 220s and he'll be fine.
And their 2 losses this year to Jacksonville, as we mentioned, who's a good AFC team, and I think played up like it was their Super Bowl. Basically, they played their biggest game. And then their other one was to the Lions, who I don't think I know Tony was kind of buying in on them. I don't love Patricia, but he has been in that building. He knows, if anyone knows that building well, it's Patricia. So maybe, just maybe we've done this before. We've been on this train. Let's just wait. They're going to come back and be just fine. But let's move on to this week's.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass. But they are who we thought they were.
Who is this week for you, Tony? Who is exactly who you thought they were?
The Green Bay Packers.
Okay.
Green Bay is just one of those. They're a middle of the road team. And Aaron Rodgers, if he can survive, then maybe they're eke their way in the playoffs. I think the NFC is going to be one of the toughest divisions the tougher of the two leagues to make the playoffs in, with all the talent down in the NFC South. Green Bay at 1-1-1. They're, that's a tough start for them. They really need to get out to a little bit hotter start before it gets cold in Green Bay. And they're just average. And that's going to be tough for them to play through with the strength that Minnesota has. And Minnesota got caught in that was a catch game, Sunday playing the Buffalo before a Thursday night game with the Rams.
They got the biggest game of the week.
The Vikings, they got into that trap game and they fell right in it. And you could see that Buffalo scored 27 points in like the first quarter and didn't score a point after that. I mean, that was really oh my God, what happened to us? And so I think Minnesota is still the quality of that division. Although I know somebody that was buying Chicago, I think Green Bay is who we thought they were.
I like that. LJ, what do you have for your who we thought they were?
Well, I was the Broncos are, I think, exactly who I think they are. I got a little amped about them for over last week, but I think they're exactly what they're supposed to be. I mean, I think they're going to have a better than 500 record. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs because that division's tough. I just think that's where it's going to land. And they seem to show that this week. So
I thought about maybe making the Broncos the team that's not talking about the playoffs this week. And it wasn't a shot necessarily. It was kind of like we've talked about. I know you've loved to talk about how Andy Reid and the Chiefs always start fast. Well, there's been no other team more notorious than the Broncos. I swear they always, I don't know. It seems like the past 5 years, they've always started out 2 or 3 games in a row at Mile High Stadium. They get to play the first couple of games where they already have a big home field advantage, and they start out 2 or 3-0, just like they did last year when they crushed the Cowboys. And people are like, oh man, maybe these Broncos teams for real. And then you learn, oh yeah, their offense still, they're lacking a playmaker at running back. Case Keenum's still figuring it out. They lost a lot on defense. I'm with you. So they're going to be okay, right, but they're not great. They're not bad. They're just kind of stuck. Right
So now you guys have pissed me off being so nice.
There we go. There we go.
Here's the thing. So, all right. So this is ridiculous. Last week we were talking about all the Broncos this and the Chiefs are this or Chiefs aren't this. And oh my God, the Chiefs and the Broncos are going to be so much better, blah, 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 blah. And then this week we both come in so nice. So here's the thing, right? I think the Chiefs are going to lambaste the Broncos come Monday night. And it's a 25 point difference. And the Chiefs finally find their defense in case Keenum's on the ground 3 times. So I tell you what, I'm going to put this out there for you gentlemen. Next week on a Chiefs, take it if you want. Chiefs Broncos. The Chiefs win. The Bonehammer emblem goes up on the JPP page. The Broncos win every single fantasy football account that I have. And unfortunately, there are several. I'll put the JPP emblem up on it. Take it or leave it, boys.
Time out. So you're just, but you're going,
come on.
You're going
come
straight
on
up.
Down to earth. Come on. Let's get it.
You're going straight up. You're saying that you're just taking the Chiefs straight up. We're not even getting
straight
points
up.
Or anything.
Chiefs straight up.
You're giving us
points.
a 25 point differential, but you're not going to give us those numbers.
Come on. Be confident.
What happened to lamb-basting the Broncos?
Come on. Yeah,
no,
I'm not giving you any points. It's an away game.
I just looked up. Looked up the line. I looked up the line for the game. And as of right now, we're recording this on Tuesday night, the line is Chiefs are -4.5.
Oh, no shit. Really?
4.5. That's
so
all
Broncos are home dogs? Oh crap. See, that's what happens when I open my mouth before I go and read the lines. So, no, I'll still take it. I can't give any points. So come on, straight up. Come on.
I think I'm in. I mean, okay. So Pops has left us. I don't want to make a decision on the website like you guys did without me a couple weeks back. So I think we might need to maybe we could bet some alert shots or something like that. That's kind of what I'm
open
thinking.
for whatever, man. Put it on the line, Kevin. You got that down?
So we're going straight up, just straight up Broncos and Chiefs Monday night.
Monday night. I'm
into
saying
it.
Chiefs, Broncos, and what's the cost here?
I was throwing out a Malort shot, but I don't know if you can get some Malort where you are. I don't know if that's
Malort? What?
totally feasible.
It's the
Malort
official
is the best
drink
alcohol
of
you could ever get.
It's the official
Malort.
liquor of the Just Press Play podcast.
Buy Malort.
Okay, send me what that is. I'll find it.
We'll figure it out.
Okay,
We'll figure
done.
it out. Yeah,
Shots
but
of
I think
Malort.
that's it. Yeah.
All right.
Someone has to we have to have video put up somewhere
Fantastic.
of
Done
a
and
Malort
done.
shot for the loser.
All right, deal.
there you
And
go.
let's
Okay, I'll go with that.
And if we
Let's-
lose, Kevin and Dad has to take one too. That's my thought.
Yeah, sure. All right, and now before we move on to the playoffs, the team the person that I'm going with, who we thought, I'm not actually going to go a team. I'm going to go with a player is who we thought they were, and I know I've been all over the Vikings, and I like the
Changing the
Vikings.
rules.
Well, no, we never really said it had to be a team.
But I love it. I
want to go with
Go for
Kirk
it.
Cousins. I just think he's a good. He's okay, but it's who we thought. That there's going to be games where Kirk Cousins comes out and has 2 turnovers in the first 6
We'll see.
minutes.
I think you're wrong here.
Yeah.
Both Tony and I are sighing at
It's
you,
what's
but-
I picked the Vikings to win Super Bowl before the year started, and what worried me was if Kirk Cousins comes down to earth, and then he's going to have 7 weeks where he's really good. But what worries me is every now and then there's just going to be that Kirk Cousins game, and if it comes up in the playoffs when it's win or go home, that's what scares me with the Vikings. They're a great team. Kirk Cousins is going to win 14, 12 games this year, but there's going to be 2 or 3 where he just throws a blunder, and you saw it last week at the Bills. I know y'all seem to be scoffing at it.
Well, I'm scoffing at that. I'll say this: every year there's a bizarro week. I'm not saying last week was the bizarro week, but it was pretty close because Old Dominion beats Virginia Tech. Buffalo goes on the road as a 17-point underdog and beats the Vikings.
First time that's happened in 40 years.
Yeah, and then Detroit beats New England 6.5 points. I think they were dogs, and that's if you had those 3 parlays, you're dancing in the streets of Vegas still today. So, I don't know that I would make Kirk Cousins my we are who we thought we're, unless you're saying he's a great quarterback. Then he is who we thought. He was.
So what I'm saying is he's an above average quarterback. He's good. And he's a step up from Case Keenum, and he's going to take that offense to another level, but he's still going to have Kirk Cousins games. About 3 times a year, 4 times a year, there's going to be a Kirk Cousins game where he just completely shoots the team in the foot. And I think now that he's off the Redskins and on the Vikings, they can maybe overcome some of those games because Dalvin Cook and Thielen and Diggs and that defense.
And Dalvin was out, and Latavius Murray fell flat on his face. Cost me a fantasy
He cost a
football
lot
game.
of guys fantasy
Asshole.
football.
But,
I think a lot of people went Latavius Murray.
Yeah, I
and
think you
he
screwed
sucked.
over Hannah a little bit,
Yeah,
Kev.
Yeah.
I gave some advice to go pick him up, and he
Man.
sucked.
That was rough. Corey Clement was a play, and
Before we move
anyway.
off of this, I wanted to. I think since Dad's not here right now, we should do. I think for bye. I think he would pick the LA Rams.
Okay, yeah. Wow, he's really he needs to quit going out on a limb there.
Why change?
And then for the who we thought they were, he would probably ask, well, does it have to be a bad thing? And then we'd say, no, of course not. And then he'd probably pick the LA Rams. So we've got that settled.
There you go.
There
Let's
he is.
keep him
Yeah.
right there in the middle.
You got him. And then he would somehow mention a golf take in there. But I want to real quick.
You know who I thought he was? Tiger Woods.
Real quick on the Rams.
There you go.
Another crazy stat that it was. I want to throw out the stat of the day that I found was the lowest 3-and-out percentages in the NFL through 3 weeks. And here's the top 5. Tied for 3 were all the Chiefs, Raiders, and Bengals at 25%. I was surprised to see the Raiders up there. I do think LJ tried to sell us on Gruden earlier this week. But then at number 2 was the Buccaneers at 21%. And then at number 1 is who Dad's buying, the Rams. But get this, at 6.9%. They are way lower than the other teams at the top. And they've only punted the ball in 3 games. Sam Hecker's a great punter that they have. He's only punted the ball 5 times in 3 games. Since 1950, only 2 other teams have punted less through 3 weeks, and it's the 1992 49ers under Bill Walsh and the 2007 Patriots that went undefeated in the regular season.
That is, I'm telling you what, man, you can scrape together some of the best stats I've ever heard. That's
I spend too
truly
much
awesome.
time on the internet. That is entirely too much time on the internet is what that is.
I do not want to see your browser history. That's all I want to say.
Well, for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
Well, they got the private browser. Chill, guys.
So wait a minute. So I want to just real quick, and I know we're running along, but okay. So I want to make sure I understand this. So the Oakland Raiders have the second best third down, 3 and out percentage.
They've gone 3 and out the least amount of time, so they at least get a first
least
down.
Amount of times other than the Rams. So that tells you how bad the Raiders are. They're 0-3, can't hold a lead.
Wait, is this your?
That's just
playoffs?
terrible.
We'll talk about playoffs.
Is this your team that's not talking
Playoffs?
No.
I just hope we can win a game.
I've already been on them, and y'all got on to me that day because they are who I thought they were and been that way. I've picked them the first 2 weeks. I'd still pick them this week, but I want to do somebody different. Those guys, it's just, it's like I said, it's flash in the pan. You got Chucky on the sidelines, and they're just getting ready for Vegas, baby. They're just getting ready for Vegas. But my playoffs is the Houston Texans. After seeing them in person, wow. That's a bad team with some really good players on it, but that's a bad team. Bad team. And like I said, I think Bill O'Brien is gone in 2 weeks.
The only argument I would have to you there is and you said you watched more of the game than I did. I watched some of it, but I didn't get to all of it. There were some plays where Deshaun Watson made that really kind of made me scratch my head. There was one at the end of the game where they didn't have any timeouts and they had to either have it incomplete or out of bounds, and he throws the ball like in the middle of the field, not to the end zone. Like it just clearly you're just it was a boneheaded play. And then there's a couple times where he underthrew or overthrew a guy. And I don't know. I just think if Bill O'Brien, I'm with you. They lose this week and Bill O'Brien needs to be fired to me. And then if the next guy comes in and gets kind of innovative and just goes, we're going to let Deshaun Watson be crazy Deshaun Watson and let's see what happens. There's a chance that I don't think that division's great. There's the Jaguars and then who else? And
Tennessee.
Tennessee's okay. They've won. I don't know, but
their defense. I thought about them as my buy.
There's just some talent. There's some talent on the Texans roster that kind of makes me go that I went with JJ Watt and Clowney and stuff. But I'm with you. They probably don't make the playoffs, and as long as Bill Bryan's there, they definitely don't make the playoffs. He is just accident.
Not a good team.
LJ, who you got? Who do you have that is not talking playoffs at all? They're just hoping they can win.
I mean, I feel like I just bought them. So the San Francisco 49ers with that ACL
I knew they were going to come up, and that was definitely the downer of the weekend was seeing Jimmy G tore his ACL. That one.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I think there's some serious issues on that roster. We were ready. A lot of people were ready to buy into him this year, and I put my hand up. I thought they were going to be decent. That defense is not good. They are bad, and without Jimmy G at quarterback, it could end up spiraling out of control quick. I think for Kyle Shanahan.
It might. We'll see. I don't know, but I don't think they're making playoffs.
Two things on the 49ers first. Yeah, when have you ever heard of a Shanahan, Mike or Kyle defense? You don't hear their defense. You always hear people talk about their offense.
That's true.
So that was destined to happen. But I will tell you this, the best play of the week happened in that 49ers game. And it was the touchdown celebration of Marquise Goodwin. I think his name is Couch, number 84. If you haven't seen that, you need to go take a look at that touchdown celebration. Google that or just watch the NFL.com and see that celebration. It was awesome.
It's
one of the best ones I've ever seen.
About Marquise Goodwin. He's a hero.
Yeah.
I'll look for it.
It was awesome. Best since Mark Ingram's little snooky dance or whatever those things are called that he did last year. I don't know what that dance is called. I'm an old guy, but it's awesome. You need to check it out.
All right.
That was definitely one of the ones I was thinking about going. I almost didn't want to choose them as not talking playoffs just because I was bummed out about Jimmy G getting hurt, and that sucks. A non-contact injury. But if you're going to tear an ACL, it's better to tear it now early, and he'll be back full ready for next year. Yeah. And I think, if anything, that was actually the best thing, maybe the best thing that could have happened for the 49ers, because as we mentioned, there's some holes on that roster, and they're still young. They're going to end up with another high pick, and next year maybe they'll be ready for that leap. But
next year they
I
might
don't know
have
if they were ready
and
for that
McKinnon
leap.
bouncing off of each other too. So
yeah,
that's a scary team next year. I think
you're right. Yeah.
We mentioned it earlier. The team that I'm going with, as they're not talking the playoffs, it's my Cowboys. They are not going to make the playoffs. They're not. Their only reason they're not the worst team in that division is because the Giants also reside in that division, and I think the Giants suck, and Eli Manning needs to go. But
music to my ears.
The Cowboys might actually even be worse than the Giants. It's just, and both those teams have running backs that I think you could make so good with Barkley and Elliott, and they've both teams are decided they're going to try to get him the ball in the passing game and throw to him, because why wouldn't you? But they're not creative about it. They just throw little flat routes instead of like McVay does, where all of a sudden you see Todd Gurley in the slot, or you see Kareem Hunt motion out to the slot. Like they're not creative. They just throw it out there and hope they can make a guy miss. And you see Saquon Barkley and Ezekiel Elliott usually make the first guy miss, but they're behind the line of scrimmage and there's another guy coming, and it usually ends up for a yard or two instead of out in open field. So that's who I'm going with. The Cowboys. My best hope for this year for the Cowboys is let's go 4-12, bottom out, suck, and get rid of Garrett and get a good pick.
Yeah.
I'm afraid what's going to happen is they're going to go 7-9. They're not going to suck, but they're not going to make the playoffs, and they're going to get a middle of the road pick, and it sucks. I see it coming, and we stick around with Garrett.
Yeah, I feel like that guy. I feel like that coach in Remember the Titans. When he grabs that defense side, if those boys cross that yard line again tonight, I will tell you, you make them remember the time they played the Titans. That's what I feel like right now. You remember to fire Jason Garrett. I just, if the Cowboys can go 2-3, if they can go 4-12, 5-11, that leaves no doubt that they've got to go.
But the problem is there's talent on that roster, and they're going to find a way to somehow win 3 games in a row at the end of the year. And Jared Jones, I can already hear it. He's going to be one Johnny Walker too deep, and he's going to come on the radio show and go,
Johnny Walker too deep.
Well, I really like how things were building towards the end of the year, and I like what Dak Prescott's doing under Garrett, and I really see something. I can already hear him doing it. And it's frustrating.
I think two big things happened. I think the safety went down. Jeff Heath went down, I believe, yesterday or Sunday. And like you said, Sean Two-Hop Lee went down. And so I think that's going to cost that defense up the middle, and that's going to make them really bad. And if that happens, we'll be okay, and we'll reach that 4-5 win mark.
As we're signing off, as we're getting ready to leave, clearly me and LJ are both kind of just seeing the writing on the wall for our teams, and that they are just they're okay, or they're not below average. And Mr. Mahomes over here, Mr. Patty Mahomes is just gloating. I wish the viewers could see this big smile on his face. He just can't get enough of these touchdown passes in the 30-point first halves.
Oh, gotta love me some Patty Mahomes. Patty. As a football addict down in Austin, Texas, was telling me, it's Patty for Prez. Patty for Prez. That's the slogan.
Well, and so I think that'll do it for this week. I don't know for any of the listeners, if you've noticed, we lost Pops halfway through. He's having some technical difficulties, but he did. LJ, do you have his playoffs? Who he's jumping off the playoffs?
I can make a guess. Let's see.
Well, he's probably going to go.
He's already said Buffalo, right? So can't say Buffalo.
He's already said Buffalo. What's the other 0-3 teams? Has he said
Arizona yet? Has he said
Arizona? He has not said Arizona. I don't think he can go there.
He's probably taking Arizona.
Yeah. Yeah, Kevin, let me say this. The real reason Liff had to get off is because I said that thing about the basketball, and he had fallen asleep to sweet dreams of him doing that scoop shot. So I'm sure that's what caused him to have to sign off early.
Pops, we'll have you next week to respond to some of this.
Yeah, he tell me, hey, did I tell you that time I made that spin move and that scoop shot? Did I tell you about that?
All right, well, that'll do it for this week. Like we talked about at the beginning, if you're before next week, after you listen to all this knowledge we just gave you, go hit up MyBookie and put down your bets. Apparently, you need to go put on Monday night, put it on the Chiefs, as Tony would say. And
no. If those Broncos are 4.5 dogs, you might want to look to that. The Chiefs still win, but you might want to look at that 4.5 dogs on Monday night. That's pretty good.
But make sure, and there's actually a special offer we're doing right now. If you put in JPP25. Not only will they match your deposit, but since you stuck around to the end of the episode, you get to hear the special offer, and they'll give you $25 on top of matching your offer. So you put in 100, they'll match 100, and then give you $25 for free too. So it's just free money.
25 plus 4.5 Monday night.
Yeah,
free money, baby.
Free money in your pocket. All right, well, that'll do it for this week of the Just Press Play. Uncle Tony, we appreciate you having you on. LJ, it's good to have you on
pleasure,
Tuesday finally.
Always.
So, All right, peace out.
Peace.
Or maybe he just didn't want to talk bad about the Cowboys. He really just didn't want to have that Cowboys slander.
I doubt that.
Yeah.
He's got, don't let him lie to you. He's got money in his pocket. He is the survivor winner, thanks to the Buffalo Bills.
He mentioned it it on Monday. He wanted to throw in how smart he was.
Yeah. He is how smart he was. Yeah, whatever.